Well, hello, and welcome back to that thing we like to call Curless Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. And tonight, I am very excited to have returning to the channel for I don't know how many times you've been on now. It's been like four, five?
We've had a good run. We just did one with Anthony a while back on the Steve Hackett show, and yeah, it
Yeah,
might be five. This might be number five.
I think some of
Lucky
number
number five.
five. So I'm
Lucky number
excited
five.
to have this gentleman on for this fifth time on the channel. I'm blessed. His name is Eric Porter. Eric, how are you tonight?
I'm good, Tom. How you doing?
Good, good, good. Doing well. Really good now because we're here to talk about some Yes.
Yeah.
I've been kind of hankering to talk some Yes, and it's funny because I I wonder if Yes is a little bit talked out because there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about Yes. But I still love Yes. They're still one of my favorite bands, so it's hard not to talk about them.
I agree. And when we discussed a topic, this is one I'm very excited about. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to this one.
Yeah, so we are here to talk about sort of we were sort of talking about this a little bit before we hit record. It's a little bit of a contentious record for some people, not everybody, for some people. So I'm kind of calling this a fans divided episode because I think, especially when it first happened, I think it was more contentious. I think over time, and we can talk about this, Eric, but I think over time, it's gotten its reputation has
It's
been
gotten some love.
yeah, it's been
Exactly.
reassessed a little bit, I think, by people over time. And we are here to talk about, of course, Yes, Drama.
Oh, you got the LP. I like it.
Yeah, from 1980. I got the CD and I mean this, I like a record when I got both of them. So,
Absolutely. You
you
got
know,
both.
got both. So, I actually I picked this up not that long ago, actually, to be
Okay.
honest. I had a copy that was sort of beat up and I always wanted a better this is the like remastered, whatever. And I was like, okay, I gotta have it because
Gotta have it. Right.
gotta have it. It's just such a good record. I'm like, I really need a better copy of Drama. So, um, but yeah, we are here. I mean, 1980, right? So this is at the end of the 70s. I mean, I think that all right, let's, before I get into it, I'm going to talk. When was the first time, do you remember, when was the first time you heard this album, Eric?
I came late to this one. I mean, you know, we're talking about kind of my introduction to Yes, probably at my age, I'm going to be 60. So I heard a lot of Yes on the radio, and I don't know that I always associated Yes and Prague. They were a
Right,
band that was played on the
right,
radio. I loved Roundabout. I loved their tunes. Didn't think of them as a prog band because at that time I was probably coming out of my Kiss phase, still
right,
into the hard
right.
rock, but you'd hear them on the radio and starting to get into other bands and stuff. I got into drama probably around 1986. So I was about 6 years late to the show. So we'd already had 90125 and they'd kind of had their comeback and granted another formation, which I'm sure we'll get into that as well. Yes, has had many iterations of personnel in the band. But
Was that Big Generator that you were,
Big Gen, well,
yep,
you had 90125 and whatever it's called.
right.
I'm that one, and then Big
And
Generator,
Big,
and
right.
it's probably around that time that I got into drama and relayer. Drama and
Oh, okay.
relayer,
Interesting. Okay. All
I
right.
came late to. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think with this one, um, I probably had gone back and we talked about, I'm sure I had Fragile, the Yes album, Close to the Edge. That might have been the three that I had at this time.
Okay.
Um, so Drama was probably the fourth or fifth album I had from Yes. Um, and we'll talk, as like you said, as we get through this, we'll throw out certain points. But
Yeah. Yeah.
a little late to the game, but still, when you think about it, not that far out. Just, we had a whole different Yes at that point that was going on, that was happening.
Right, right, exactly. Because I mean, the Trevor Rabin, yes, was pretty huge I mean, at the
Sure.
time, and we were all really into 90125 and 902 Live, and at the
Yep.
time, and we were waiting. I remember we were waiting for Big Generator to come out. Like we were like, because it took so long. I mean, it was what was like 90125 was like 83, right?
83, and then Big Generator would have been what,
Like
86, 87?
86, 87, yeah,
Yeah.
86. And then I think we went saw him in 87 at Brendan Byrne
Okay.
for the Big Generator tour. And I remember John Anderson was all in white and he had like the white microphone and it was anyway, but I enjoyed that show, but like To your point, I don't think that I got to drama until later. I think I was the same way. I had all the classics, and I had all the,
Okay.
like you said, all the classics. We don't, but I didn't have. I was catching up. I was getting them all. And it's funny. I think I got Relayer kind of later too.
Okay.
Because that's again, these are albums and Tormato and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, so I think I got to drama later and I was like, oh my God, like this album's really good. I remember hearing it for the first time and being like, whoa, like Machine Messiah, when that thing comes in, you're like, whoa, is this this is yes? Like it's
Heavy
heavy,
yes. Heavy yes.
it is heavy.
Exactly.
That that it just comes and it fades in that and you're like, oh my God, it's just like, is that Steve Howe? You know?
Those great, yeah, that opening the triplets, it's just it's such a cool and I'll say this. I know we're going to talk about it all. That's a top five yes song for me.
Oh God, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great opener. And like you said, I think that's the first thing that kind of hits you over the head is that if you're used to Yes, I mean, Yes rocked. It wasn't like they were, John Anderson, I think, maybe, vocally, you don't think of him as having that, um, that kind of a presence. He obviously has
Right,
a presence.
right, right.
Um, but I think I think, if you listen to Relayer, you hear the heavy stuff too.
Yes,
But I think
yes.
drama is definitely a heavy yes record. And I love it. I love the direction that they went in with this.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. So let's step back a little bit because I think that I don't want to dwell too much on the history, but I think we have to talk about this album a little bit because this is the album before it, Tormato, and this album was kind of this was an album where they were sort of having some issues when they were making this, from what I understand.
Mhm. Yep.
It was getting a little harder to, and I think they were kind of wondering what direction to go in at this time because music was changing in 79 and 78 and 79. And I think they were kind of like, we're still a big band, what are we doing, like what, and I think at this point too, you think about it, they had been going, I always bring this up, like they had been going nonstop since like the Yes album was what, like 71 or 70 or
71, I
71.
think. Yes.
71,
71, I
the
think.
Yes album blew up big, like they became a big band in 71 and then they started to like, from then on they just did album tour, album tour, album tour, and I think by 79 they were getting kind of tired. That's just my thing. I don't know for sure, but like, and I think they were maybe they needed a break at that point.
Mhm. True.
So this is,
Um,
I'm speculating, as Luis always likes to say, we're speculating here. I'm like, I know,
sure,
but
of course.
I'm just, it's just as a fan, you like to speculate about it. I don't know. What's
And
your
I think, my take on Tormato never connected with me. And I know that's probably the common opinion. And you're probably right. You had multiple lineup changes over those years. So, there were probably issues here and there with the band, for I think Tony Kaye replaced by Wakeman. Then you had Bruford replaced by Alan White. Then Patrick Moraz comes in and replaces Wakeman. I mean, you just had all these personnel changes. So that kind of gets you thinking like, there may have been some internal issues with the band throughout the band's history, which is not uncommon. And you get those personalities together, strong personalities. I don't know. Tormato is the one record in this string, I guess, if we're talking, from Yes album to Drama. It never connected with me. I can't tell you the last time I put it on to listen to. Can't say I'm interested in going back and hearing it. There really wasn't
Yeah,
much for me on that record, and I
yeah.
don't know why. I don't, there's a couple decent tracks on there, but it just something that I don't reach for ever.
It seems a little bit like, I don't know what the word is, what I'm looking for. Splintered, a little bit, like it seems a little all over the map, and I think that honestly, I think here's my theory. I'm going to drop it right now. My theory on Tormato was that for the first time, Squire and Anderson were kind of going like this a little bit. Like they were the two that started the band. And I think that was the first time where they started to kind of drift a little. Yeah, a little bit of this and also drifting musically a little bit because in their taste, because Anderson's like, hey, I got this song, and it's like, it's and like Wondrous Stories was like kind of a big hit, and that was sort of like
Yeah,
a mellow John Anderson song, and I think he was like, oh, let's do more of that. And I think Chris was like, oh, time out, like I want to go, I want to be, I don't want to just be an acoustic, like I want to be heavy too, and I don't know. That's just my guess is that I think he and Alan wanted to like rock out, and Steve too, a little maybe a little bit wanted to rock, and then John kept bringing in this John and Rick brought in these like cool good songs, but they were like mellow, sort of airy, mellow songs.
Right.
And they were like, "Well, I'm not sure if I like that song. Let's not do that one. Let's do something else." And I think there was a little bit of that going on during Tormato. And then when they tried to follow up Tormato, it was like a disaster. They went in with Roy Thomas Baker, and it just the sessions just didn't. They fell apart. You know.
And I think when you look at the musical landscape, Prague was on its way out, right?
Yes, that's true.
So
That's
you
true.
could have had a contingent of we need to change, and I still think drama represents a bit of a change sound wise. But you have that too. You look at all the bands that did try to change their sound or did change their sound, and you got five guys in a room and they're not agreeing, and like you said, maybe they're coming in with songs and these guys are coming in with songs and they're not meshing. I
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, all bands have a shelf life, I guess, for the most part. And, I think they were coming, something creative had to change. And I think that's where drama really kind of gave them a kick in the butt. It's really a different record from Tormato. Uh,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and, I obviously we'll be talking about that, but I think when you think about every band kind of has missteps here and there. And to me, Tormato was kind of a misstep. And like you said, I think seeing, listening and seeing Tormato and then moving on to drama, you see, like you said, where that splintering happened
Hmm.
probably was between Squire and Anderson. Wakeman's not here anymore. Uh,
Right. Right.
so
Yeah.
I, I think you do see that.
Yeah, I think that was happening. And then, like you said, to your point, music was changing as well. And they're like, okay, go into the studio with Roy Thomas Baker. And who did Roy Thomas Baker do? Queen, The Cars,
Queen.
Foreigner. These are like bands that aren't really like Yes, they're a little different. And I think that John was like, what? Like, okay, I'll go in and try, but I don't know if I want to make an album with this guy. Because I'm sure Roy Thomas Baker was pretty forceful in his views as well. So,
Mhm.
and it's just too many alphas in the room. But
Right. And you do hire a producer sometimes for direction, right? So if
right.
if they were clashing out of the gate with him, it's not going to work.
Not going to work exactly. So those sessions fall apart, and then basically Anderson and Wakeman leave the band. I mean, then it becomes like, oh my god. Then all of a sudden it's like DEFCON 5. Whoa, two members just left, and what are we going to do now? And I think that the three of those guys, Squire, White, and Howe, just started to jam as the three as a trio, and start jamming ideas. And but and then as we know, right, and history tells the story that the Buggles were also managed by Brian Lane, the same guy that managed Yes, and they had a big hit with "Video Killed the Radio Star," and suddenly, and Trevor Horn was a big Yes fan. He
I was
admits
going
it.
to
He's
say
like,
they were big
yeah,
Yes fans.
he was a Yes fan. He wanted to write a song for them. He said, "Oh, I'll write a song for you." And he's funny because I saw an interview with him. I was getting ready for this. I watched an interview with him on YouTube, and he said something like, he's like, "Man, the kahunas that I had, I walked in and said, I want to write a song for you guys." It's kind of funny, but
Well, I mean, I guess you look at him as, like you said, they were fans. They probably looked up to these guys, but at the same time, kind of shows a confidence that maybe that's what impressed them, right? This guy walks in and wants to give us a song, and
right, right,
but at the same time, maybe they'd heard, you had that meshing of we talked about how styles were changing and different music was coming into popularity. Maybe they had an idea like, hey, these guys kind of bring this, and because I think it was Squire
yeah.
who approached them, right, and said, why don't you guys come and let's see what happens? And obviously what happened was drama.
Yeah, he's like, you don't. He said something to Trevor like, you don't sound too far off from John Anderson. Like, you kind of have a similar sort of voice, right? And I think Chris Squire was very persuasive gentleman. So that's just my take on him. I think he was good at like talking people into stuff. Like, oh, you can
I
do
think I would
this.
agree. Yes.
You can do this. You can do this. And then Trevor Horn says, the next thing I know, I'm at Madison Square Garden with these guys.
Right.
So anyway, let's get so we know the Buggles joined the Buggles basically join Yes, and then they start playing and they start writing songs, and it turns into the album Drama. And so let's dig into the record. I mean, we started talking about Machine Messiah already. It's that is just what a force of nature that song is. I mean, like you said, it's one of your
Amazing.
top Yes songs.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yep, easily.
I mean,
And I
yeah.
think to me, it's a perfect song. I love the way it's put together. Great intro. The band kicks in, and I think that's, something we both mentioned previously. You're like, wow, this is, and Relayer was heavy, but I'm sitting there going, this is heavy and it's good and it's proggy. But there's something about this record. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. There's like a coldness to this record. And you were saying how Trevor Horn's voice is similar. I'm going to put myself out there and say, I do not miss John Anderson on this record. Not
Yeah.
1 minute. Now, I know the live, and we don't have to get into the live stuff that they talked about, how Trevor Horn had some issues singing the classic Yes stuff. And I get
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
But I do not miss John Anderson on this record. And I think Squire and Horn, when they're vocalizing and they're harmonizing together, there's almost like a it's and I hate to use the wrong words because I'm gushing over this record. I love this record, but there's almost a mechanical sound to their vocals. Like John always had this high, lofty, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, just and his lyrics and this just sounds very like, and maybe Machine Messiah is a good way to use it, like just mechanical, but in a good way. I don't mean that as stiff or but there's something about the way they sang together. And as I've sat and I've listened to it a couple times to go over for the show, I'm like, boy, I've never thought about it in this way, but I do not miss John Anderson, not one bit. I
Yeah. Yeah.
could I hear him on this record? Maybe, but do I want to hear him on this record? No. This
No.
is it's a good match for me.
It's not needed. It's not, it's
Right.
almost like it's not needed. And that's a great way to say it. I love that. I mean, it's so true because, when they do does it really happen you can hear, to your point, you can hear Trevor and Chris, like you can hear them both singing
Yeah,
like pretty clearly. And it's really working well. Like it's working very well.
agreed.
But yeah, but you're right. There's something about this album that there's production, the sound of it, the feel of it. It just feels different.
Mhm.
And maybe it's just because, it's a new band, new producer, new everything. I mean, they're just going in there and I mean, Machine Messiah, I keep talking about it, but I just think it's such a great song. And it kind of has that sort of, it goes through phases within the song.
Definitely.
And, when it comes down to that Messiah, and it's just acoustic and you're like, and then it comes back. Oh, it's just amazing. It's just
Yep.
unbelievable.
And I love the piano, guitar, bass run that brings everything in, and then it really like goes to a crawl, but that heavy crawl with the mellotron
Yes.
coming in and
Yes.
just gives you
When it goes,
chills.
it's so cool. I
Yep.
just love that. You know,
It's very strong. Like I said, I would put this in my top five Yes songs of any era.
yeah,
I absolutely love it.
I agree with you. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
And I think as a whole, Chris Squire, as great as he is, I mean, you can listen around about 1,000 times and you're still like, God, what a great bass line. He's
Right.
all over this record. I love his playing on this record.
It's so true. It's like I always say this is a Chris Squire album. It really is.
It is. It's almost
You
like
know.
every song starts with it's like this came from a bass riff, didn't it?
Yes,
I mean, I think
exactly.
probably three or four of the songs we talk about, you're gonna think about it and you're gonna go, okay, well, I know Howe's doubling his part, and sometimes the keyboards come in and play it as well. But I'm sitting there going, I could see, this came from Chris Squire.
Right.
That's what I think when I'm listening to these tunes.
Yeah. What is the I mean, that's what is that?
That's what does it really
Does it
happen,
really
right?
happen? Yeah, does it really happen? And that is just killer. I mean, it starts with the bass, and it's just like that is so awesome, and it's just so Chris, and he's like you said, like he's right in front and center, man. He is like in it, and
Mhm.
it's to your point. I think it really was a Chris song, that one for sure. Because White Car is just kind of like this little. It's really small. I mean, it's very short. It's kind of this quick like interlude
It's like a
between.
minute 20, I think.
Yeah.
Tom, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, something like that. And like you
Yeah.
said, it's almost like a little, all right, take a breath and then we're going to punch you in the face again.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly, exactly. So side one is just I just like love side one because it's just like between those two songs and then just like you said, that little great way to say it, a little breath between them.
And
Um,
White Card, it's almost there's like an Oriental flavor to it too, with the keyboard sounds. And then you get that quick, short horn vocal. I know some people who like this album, they're like, I don't know why they put White Card in there. I can see that, but at the same time, I'm like, I kind of like it. You
I would
know,
sort of miss
it's
it if it wasn't there.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
I like it. I like the way you said that. It's like a breath of fresh breath between those
It is.
two epics, you know. I kind of like
And
it.
then, like you said, we've got, goes into Does It Really Happen, which again, it's got that great bass riff that opens the tune. And I think the guitar, I think how another thing is he always had great player, don't get me wrong, but he always had, I try to think of a way to describe his tone, and I always think scratchy comes to mind in my head. He always
Right.
had that scratchy tone. I don't know if it was because he was using the hollow bodies or if it's just his, but when I went through the liner notes, if they're accurate, he uses a Les Paul for most of this record. And he obviously has a heavier tone, which plays to the songs and I think was needed. But I'm like, you don't get that how it's Steve Howe, you can tell by the playing, but I think his tone is a little better on this record than from um, some of the other older Yes albums, at least to my ears.
Oh, I love his tone on this album. I think he just kills it, and it sounds his guitars. Like I agree with you. I've always felt this way about drama that his guitars, his tone sounds so much better than than usual as far as I'm
Agree.
concerned. You know, I think he's playing like you said, Les Paul's cranked up. He's playing some tellies. He's playing solid body guitars. He's not playing hollow
Yep.
bodies.
Right.
Which I like that. I mean, I know that he can be jazzy, and don't get me wrong, I still love his work on the other albums,
Yep.
but it's just like, I love how you said you can still tell it's him. Like you can still
Yeah.
tell it's how, but he's playing different guitars, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
do think his tone is much better on this record. And again, this is another one that has that vocal quality that I probably used a bad term for by saying mechanical, because that I don't want to turn people off on it. There's just something about the way Trevor, the melody line or whatever you want to call it, that these guys created for most of the songs on this record. And it's not, I'm coming up with wrong words, but I'm trying to think, oh, it's not like a monotone. I don't mean it that way in terms of mechanical. It's just maybe
Right,
the delivery of it. But I think they work so well together. Their voices, John, he always sang great harmonies behind John. And I
right.
think it seems like he's a little more prominent vocally on this record,
You know,
and they mesh terrifically together.
yeah, and I mean, and Trevor Horn was an unabashed fan of Chris. He loved Chris, so he was well more than happy to turn him up. Like, and I think he does on this album. He really he's very prominent. And so yeah, so we move into side two with Into the Lens and Run Through the Light. What's your take on these?
Well, if we're gonna talk about, into the lens, I think I called it I am a camera for 15
Oh,
years
so did
before I
I.
realized
I did too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the actual title of it. But again, this is another one of my favorite tracks. I mean, there's only six tracks on the record, right? So I'm gonna
Right,
four of the
right.
six I love, right?
Yeah,
Um, I love the intro house slide and that syncopated playing with Squire and White is just it's so good. And I think, you know, they just nail this song. There's so much energy. And I think this is where if you go back and listen to Tormato and you listen to drama, to me, that's what you hear. You hear energy, you hear fire,
hmm,
you hear that heaviness, the grit that I feel like Tormato is just absolutely missing. This
right.
track, it absolutely rocks. And again, I think even though you get and I think at this time period, I'm thinking a lot of bands were I think the tones Jeff Downes uses on this record or the patches or whatever you want to call it, the keyboards he's playing. I love the
They
sounds he
work
gets on this
well.
record.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you
yeah.
get the little vibe things that he does, and I think that might have been in Does It Really Happen? It's like this kind of vibey. But it's got this texture to it. And then same with this one. I just think they really kind of they don't lose any of their progressiveness with the added heaviness. There's still, there's maybe a little more punch than some Yes stuff. But at the same time, I think again, if you were somebody who maybe heard this record, whatever it is, 46 years ago, and you were like, go back and listen to it. Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, and that's what you were saying in the beginning too. I think this may be because of the lineup change and everything else, it might have been one that came out initially and people are like, and the funny thing about that, Tom, is I'd be interested to know how many people bought this record and went, how come John Anderson and Rick Wakeman are on this? Like you didn't have the internet. You didn't get all this
Right. Yes.
necessarily the
Yes.
information, right?
Good point.
So
Good point. Yes. And
how many
and
people might have been
it has the
surprised?
old logo on it, right? It's got the old
Yeah,
Yes logo on it. Yeah.
right.
So and
But I
yeah.
love, like I said, I am a camera, whatever, into the lens, whatever you want to call it. Great way to open side too. Great track.
Yeah, I love that I had the same exact thought about Jeff Downes that he's playing very tastefully on this record. He's playing to
Yeah.
the song, and I think sometimes as much as I love Rick Wakeman, he and Steve could get in each other's way at times. They would
Hmm.
get, and I think on Tormato it happens a little bit, and like they're in the same sonic space and they're fighting for the space. Whereas like you said in this song particularly, I am a camera. Boop, boop, boop. I mean, he's just doing like three, but they're like so effective. Like it's like like a almost like a response to the vocal, and it's just so simple and it works great, you know.
Yeah, yeah, great. Like you said, and pick your spots. He definitely gets to play a lot on this record. I mean, it's not like he's buried. It's
Right,
not like how it
right.
takes the record over, but like you said, maybe there's a little less, you don't have everybody going at it at once, and Hal gets his time. And I
Mhm.
know Jeff Downes takes a lot of heat sometimes from Yes fans that maybe he doesn't measure up to Rick Wakeman, but on this material, I think he's perfect. I think he
Works
does a great job.
works for me. Yeah, works for
Mhm.
me. So how about Run Through the Light? How do you feel about that one?
That one's probably that's where it stumbles a bit. I
Yeah.
don't dislike the
Yeah.
track at all. It's probably my least favorite track on the album. Um, the vocal cadence to me is a bit clumsy. Uh, I guess the melody line, if you will. It's just one of those songs that this one might have been. I hate to say it because I don't want to hang this one on Trevor and Jeff, but it almost sounds like this one may have come more from their camp than the Yes camp.
Right,
But I
right.
don't
I
know if
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true. I mean,
yeah.
maybe it is a Chris Squire song, but that's what I'm hearing. Maybe this comes more from their side of the tracks than
Right.
Squire, Howe, and White.
Yeah, possibly. I tend to I don't know for sure either, but it kind of sounds that way. And I tend to agree with you. I think that this might be the weakest track on the record. It just doesn't have it's not as distinctive, I guess, would maybe is what I would say. It doesn't it as the other tracks are. But man, then it goes into Tempest Fugit, and you had said that Machine Messiah was up there. For me, Tempest Fugit is one of my favorite Yes songs. So
What a great bass line,
I
right?
mean,
I
that
mean,
bass line is just undeniable. It's like insane how good it is.
and what you were saying about Downs, you get the bass line that runs, and then it's the dun 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 dun. It's just he's picks his spots and he picks them well in these tracks.
Yeah, dan, 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 doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, dan, dan, dan,
Yep,
doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, dan, dan, dan. It's just like they are just so locked, and it's just like, oh, and then it just, it's like, oh my God, it's just like, it just blows my mind how tight it is, and there's so many cool things going on at once,
agreed.
you know? God, I love this track. Like, so it ends, to me, this album ends so strong with
It's a
that.
very strong ending. Right. Great bookend to an album, right? You get Machine Messiah and Tempest Fugit. And
Yeah.
again, the song builds, great heavy riff. And I'm gonna give Squire credit, but who knows who wrote it. It could be all three. And uh, I think the vocals are excellent on this one,
Oh, the
as they are
vocals are
on
great. Yeah.
pretty much all the tracks. So but yeah, I mean 36 minutes that you know, pretty much for me, everything's locked in. Like you said, I know we had the one stumble that we just talked about in the previous song, but I mean, I could see where I see where it fits. To me, you got 6 songs you got to pick, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
that one's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah,
And like
it's
you said, it's
subs.
not a massive stumble. It's not like a horror. It's
No,
not terrible or anything. It's just not as good as the other stuff, which is like
right.
really high level, you know?
And
Um,
I do think it's interesting when we, that the relationship continued because Trevor Horn produced 90125.
right,
So,
right.
and it's not as big of a gap, I guess, as you think when you think about Drama came out in 80 and they toured. And then I honestly don't know if you know the story, maybe you can throw it out there. I'm not sure why they chose to not continue after that. I know that they were kind of under pressure. Maybe that was one of the reasons, with Downs and Horn in the same studio um, at the time, because I had heard or read that they had the tour booked when,
Yeah.
because they were planning on recording the record, and then John Anderson and Wakeman left, and they're like, this could be financial ruin because we've agreed or we're contractually obligated to go out and do a tour. And they obviously had to find replacement players. And so you get that. And maybe there was just all that pressure and everything that built up and then whatever fell apart. But if you think about it, the album came out at the end of, I think it was August, right? August
Right.
18th. Then there's a tour. And then I'm assuming you're into 1981. By 1983, you've got another John Anderson's back. You got Trevor Rabin, who's the
Mhm.
next guy to breathe life into the Yes name, right? Because that album is pretty heavily influenced by Trevor. But I'm kind of disappointed because I would like, I would have liked to hear where these. Maybe it wouldn't match up because we like the record so much. But I would have liked to see what happened with these guys if they stayed together for another go round, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. As strong as this record is, it would have been so nice to get one more from him.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to see what would have happened. But Trevor Horn, as you already said, Trevor Horn did produce 90125. So
Mhm.
he said that by the end of Drama, he said he had his hands on the faders. Like it was started by Eddie Offord, but then Eddie Offord left in the middle of the sessions or something. And then Trevor Horn was like, "Hey, I can produce." Like he kind of jumped onto the board a little bit and started producing a little bit. So I think he had his hand in a little bit on production of this album, and
Okay.
then on 90125 he really took over.
And
You
he
know,
obviously he became a pretty in-demand producer at that time, I think, obviously with the success of 90125. But what I do like, Tom, and I don't know if you went and checked this out because you always hear a lot of bad blood and bitching about this member and that member. If you read anything like on the internet about Trevor and talking about this era, he doesn't have a bad thing to say, other
no,
than I
no,
think he will say or he will admit, it was very intimidating to stand on that stage and sing John Anderson songs. But other than that, it sounded like he had very fond memories of making this record. He's proud of the record, which I love hearing because it's kind of disappointing when you like something so much and then you read about the band and like, that was kind of a half-assed go at it or whatever, or
right, right,
we were just trying to keep life in the band. Because I think even I want to say Howe, and Steve Howe can be a little gruff. I think
yeah,
even he had good things to say about this. Chris Squire, I think, was a big proponent of the record. So that's why I was kind of wondering, like, maybe Trevor Horn did say, hey guys, I'm moving on to other stuff, or, the producer angle, I'm not into the performing and that kind of thing anymore. But it's nice to read that these guys they really had good things to say about Drama, and I really enjoyed seeing that because um, there's always different band, different lineup. Is it Yes? Isn't it Yes? You get all who knows what was going on back in
yeah,
that in the day with the fans, but I just love hearing that they're proud of it, and I think that's always just a cool thing to see.
yeah. It's nice to have the artist standing by it and not dissing it. Sometimes you will see that. We all know you'll see times where the artist will say, "Oh, that album, like I remember Paul McCartney's so funny. Like if an album doesn't sell, he's like, "Oh, that album wasn't very good." Like he like if it gets bad reviews or doesn't sell, like he just, I mean, like Back to the Egg to me is a great record, and he just disses it because it didn't sell
Oh,
very
does he?
well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's just, but not everyone does that, and thank you, like you said, thankfully. Everyone has stood by this album, I think, pretty
Yeah.
well. And I honestly, they should because it's a great album. And I think as you mentioned, I think that they really enjoyed making the album. I think it didn't seem like much of a struggle. I think they really liked making it. I think it was like a fresh new energy coming in from Trevor and Jeff, and like, and they were open to playing with Yes, and I just think there's a lot of energy in the backing tracks. I mean, you can tell they're like really rocking out and loving it. It kind of comes through these songs. And I think that you mentioned it already. Not to repeat what you're saying, but I think that what happened was Trevor Horn probably had the most trouble live. That was where he was like, I can't be John Anderson live. Like I can't do. I don't want to do it. You know what I
Right.
mean? I'll do it for this tour, but I don't want to keep doing this.
That's right.
You know?
And, I think in that same vein, I was talking previously about how drama and relay are the ones I reach for the most. And I think, if you're a Yes fan and maybe you've ignored this, I think what's kept it fresh for me, as much as I listen to it, is this is not, at least from my memory, I don't ever remember hearing this on the radio. I don't ever remember hearing anything from it on the radio.
No, no, I agree. I
Re-
didn't. Yeah,
And, and so that and relay are actually, they didn't get burnt out. Whereas the other ones, hey, I love Close to the Edge, I love Roundabout, but I've heard those songs outside of my playing them. I've heard them on the radio quite a bit, and this is kind of untainted by that. It's just I listen to it when I want to listen to it. I'm not hearing these songs anywhere else. And I've had that, like I said, I think probably heard this first in 85, 86, and I still listen to it. It's the one I go for. If it's not this, it's Relayer. Those are the
right,
two
right.
that I grab off the shelf.
Yeah, it's sort of like a buried treasure within the Yes catalog. It's kind of like it's like you said, it doesn't get that much attention, and it doesn't get that. There's no big hits on it, no no roundabouts on it. There's nothing. It's kind of there, and but if you once you discover it, and I think that's why people have reappraised it, because once they really sit down with it and discover it, they go, oh, this album's really good. Like I didn't know this album was this good. I think there's a lot of that going on.
I agree.
So it's great to see that it's getting reassessed. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, let's hope we'll push a few more buttons and
Yeah.
get some other people to check it out.
So that's what, yeah. So I mean, I called this one "Fans Divided." Obviously, Eric and I are not divided
Yeah,
about
we
this
are
record.
not divided on
We
this.
are not divided at all. We are agreeing, and it's kind of, I think, just disagreeing gets more views, but we are. We are lockstep on this album. We both agree. We both love this album, but there are a
Yeah,
lot of people there. It does have its detractors. Don't get me wrong. I think some people are like, the Buggles. I can't do it, man. I can't. Like, it just doesn't do it for
give
me.
it a chance. Give it a chance.
But I would say if you don't know this album, as we're saying, definitely try it. Like listen to it
Absolutely.
and let us know what you think. Because
Absolutely.
oh God, my throat is still. I've been sick
So,
for like 3 weeks. I swear to God.
as
Um,
is everybody. Yeah, I mean,
well,
put your comments out there, and I think that would be interesting if there are viewers who've never heard this or maybe heard it, like I said, 46 years ago and kind of like, nah, go back and listen to it. I really would like to hear, because we've obviously gushed over it, but I would like to hear somebody who either has come back to it or has never heard it before, and I'd like to hear their opinions about it.
yeah, and I think that's a great place to stop. I would say, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you guys think of this album. If you haven't heard it, go check it out and listen to it, and then let us know. Come back and
Absolutely.
comment. So yeah, but yeah, I would say that's a good place to end it. And Eric, thank you again so much for coming on, man. And we always have fun.
Sure. We'll keep throwing the ideas out there, Tom, right? But yeah, this
Yeah.
one, go check it out for sure. Thanks for having me.
Major thumbs up for this. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. If you're with us this long, you must be a big Yes fan. So we appreciate you as well. And thanks again for watching. And please give us a like if you like what you see, and hit subscribe. That really helps the channel. But that's it. And I guess we'll just have to see you next time on Curless Mania. Take care.